I would encourage clients to lawyer shop. Sounds kind of bad, but clients need to find a lawyer that is the best fit for them. Divorce is a huge decision in a person's life, and they need to be paired up with a lawyer that they feel good about giving them advice.
Today, I'm excited to welcome Rhonda Cleaves to the show. She's going to talk with us about collaborative divorce. Rhonda is the Vice President of Collaborative Divorce Texas, which is a statewide organization committed to helping lawyers and other professionals be trained in the collaborative process. Rhonda didn't start her life off as a family law attorney. In fact, she was a civil attorney for 10 years before she decided to make the transition to helping families through the divorce process. Rhonda and I started practicing collaborative divorce right at about the same time. Rhonda knows what it means to be committed and concerned about families. She is a wife and a mother to two teenagers, and she's also the owner of her own law firm, which is committed to helping families through the divorce process in a non-adversarial way. Rhonda, I'm excited to welcome you to the show today.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm so happy to be here with you talking about this topic.
You know, one of the first questions I want to ask you, in your years of experience as a collaborative divorce attorney, how have you seen collaborative divorce benefit families?
Wow, that's a great question. When I started practicing in family law, I sort of patterned my practice after my civil practice, which was courtroom. And I loved practicing law in the courtroom. I was an asbestos litigator. I represented clients who had cancer, and I always felt like I was fighting the good fight. And I moved into family law and learned very quickly that family law in the courtroom is not fun, it's not fulfilling, because everyone tries their best to be a good parent, right? Everyone tries their best to be a good spouse. No one goes into a marriage thinking they're getting divorced. And so, what collaborative divorce does for parents, for spouses, is it provides some dignity for them in the divorce process. It gives them control over the process, gives them control over time, over how they spend their money, and most importantly, over the outcome. And the reason why that's so important is because in litigation for families, usually you have a stranger in a black robe hearing about your life for a few hours and then making decisions that impact you and your kids for the rest of their lives. And this process takes that unknown variable away from families and puts it in the hands of parents and spouses who know their families better than anyone.
I think that's such a good point. You know, one of the things you and I have both seen over and over again is couples who, shared their intimate lives together and the details and, some of the most private moments and secrets. And when we walk into the courtroom, all of that is on display. And, these days it's not just on display in the courtroom, it's actually on display on YouTube. And I think the privacy part of collaborative divorce is so important for so many families, because once you go there to that place, you don't ever get to go back. And it's awfully hard to have a co-parenting relationship with somebody who, when you feel betrayed by them in that way. How have you seen collaborative divorce grow since 2005, when you and I both started practicing together?
Yeah, it's a long time ago. I've seen it grow in a couple of different ways. I've seen it grow for professionals, which I think is a really important point. We need more professionals in this state offering collaborative divorce as an option for families. And I've seen that growth occur, which makes me really happy. Collaborative Divorce Texas has been really instrumental in that. The organization offers training and forums and other resources to help professionals in that process. So I've seen the number of professionals grow in the state, but I've also seen it grow in terms of clients who are hearing about it and asking for it when they come, certainly into my office. Collaborative Divorce Texas works really hard to educate the public, to let them know that this is an option out there available to them. And so it's really fulfilling to see and hear when we pick up the phone, clients saying, "Hey, I'm calling about collaborative divorce. What more can you tell me about it?" So that's how I've seen it grow. We have a lot of room still to go, but we're making great progress and strides in that regard.
I will just point out that we will include a link to the Collaborative Divorce Texas website for people who want to learn more about collaborative divorce. I think the organization has done a great job with the website, and they're providing lots of information, not only about the process, but about the other professionals who are part of the process. When you think about your experience in collaborative divorce, are there any moments that you think, wow, this is really great. This is why I do this kind of work. I'm just wondering if there's any kind of stories you can share with us.
Yeah, sure. I have lots of stories I could share. I'll pick two quick ones in particular. One was a couple who entered into the process, and they at the beginning said, oh, we don't need all the neutral professionals, right? We only need the financial professional. We don't need the neutral parenting coordinator or mental health professional, because they thought they could work it all out. And after their very first meeting with the neutral parenting coordinator, who helped them understand all the decisions they would be making going into the future, they came back to both of the attorneys and said, wow, we did not appreciate what we didn't know when we entered into this process. And so it was really nice to hear how much education as co-parents they were getting from the process. And then one other quick story, if you don't mind. This is one of my favorites, actually. We had a couple who at the end of their collaborative process said, we are so glad that we chose this process. Our son plays baseball, and there's another family on the team who's in the middle of a divorce. We sit together at our son's games right now to watch him play, but this other couple, they sit on opposite sides of the bleachers. And we saw their son make this incredible play in the field. And when the play was over, he looked up, and we could see on his face that he didn't know where to look. Do I look to this side of the bleachers where mom is, or do I look to that side where dad is? And it was a really sad moment for that family, but it was a really happy moment for us, because we knew we made the right choice in how to divorce for our family.
I love that story. I think one of the things that's so important to drive home for people today is the fact that if you are in fact carrying the weight of the decision about whether to divorce, you need to know that divorce doesn't have to be terrible. In fact, it can be quite constructive, especially when you're working with great lawyers like Rhonda and a team of professionals who really help you make those decisions. What advice would you give to somebody today who might be considering divorce?
My first piece of advice is do your homework. It's really important. Just because you go and talk to a lawyer about what your options are or what the law says, it doesn't mean you actually have to move forward with a divorce. Education and knowledge are very powerful tools, and it can give a person a lot of comfort in making their decision about whether or not to divorce. I tell people all the time, I'm a collaborative divorce attorney. I do not love that people get divorced. I'm married. I have children. I would never want that for my family. But what I love is that I have a better way for families to divorce when it's the only option. And so I would encourage people to do their homework about the process options. Talk to a lawyer, talk to a counselor. A counselor can really help you decide in your heart if you're ready to move forward with a divorce. And then you can talk to a lawyer about what the practical aspects are. But again, it's just getting information. It's not making a final decision. Just get the knowledge that you need to move forward.
That's really great advice. How does somebody know if the collaborative divorce process is right for them if they're considering divorce?
It's a great question. I think the best thing that people can do is talk to your spouse. You'll know if you say, look, I am considering divorce, and I want us to look at this process together of collaborative divorce, and educate your spouse on it. If your spouse is open to it, then it's going to be a great process. If your spouse is immediately getting angry, saying, I'm going to court, I'm going to talk to a lawyer, it may not be the right process for you. But I still would encourage you to talk to a lawyer about the option of collaborative divorce. Look, most cases settle. Okay, I would say easily over 90% of cases settle, regardless of the path that they choose. And that may be early in the process, it may be on the day of your trial that's scheduled, but most cases settle. And so, what I tell clients is rather than choosing a process like litigation where you have to plan from the outset for a trial that may never happen, you can choose a collaborative process together with your spouse and focus on settlement from the outset. You're never wasting time focusing on a trial that's never going to happen. So, my opinion is that collaborative is a great choice for most families. There's a few types of cases where it may not be a really good fit. Maybe cases of addiction that's untreated or family violence. But beyond those particular situations, most clients are a great fit for collaborative.
I think that's really, really good advice. One of the things that's interesting, I think, when we think of divorce in our common culture, we think of movies like War of the Roses, and we see these couples battling it out. And I think for a lot of families, they think if they're going into divorce, they have to hire the meanest, baddest lawyer. What advice do you give to your clients who are considering divorce about, the other lawyer, who the other lawyer should be?
Good question. First of all, a little bit related to your question, I would encourage clients to lawyer shop. It sounds kind of bad, but clients need to find a lawyer that is the best fit for them. Divorce is a huge decision in a person's life, and they need to be paired up with a lawyer that they feel good about giving them advice. If my client's spouse chooses a lawyer that I know is not interested in collaborative or has never handled a collaborative case, we're going to have a hard decision about the process going forward and whether or not collaborative really is a good fit. And that's another instance back to your previous question about whether or not collaborative is a good fit for clients. It's not going to be a good fit if the other lawyer is not interested or really willing to participate in the collaborative process. And so that's why I encourage my clients, talk to your spouse about collaborative, educate them. There are lots of groups in the Metroplex, groups of lawyers and other collaborative professionals who band together to help educate the public, and they're easy to find in terms of contact information, how to reach out to them. And then you and your spouse can both lawyer shop and find the lawyers that are good fits for each of you.
Again, that's a really good point. I think a lot of people don't realize that, lawyers have different preferences, they have different philosophies, they have different values. And not all lawyers value collaborative. And if that's something you're interested in, it's really important to find a lawyer who shares that value. Speaking of which, you are recently credentialed, and I say recently because this is a fairly relatively new credential, but can you talk to us a little bit about what is involved in the collaborative divorce credentialing process?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. Collaborative Divorce Texas a few years ago began a process of credentialing professionals who have a certain level of experience in the collaborative divorce process. Lawyers in the state of Texas can get board certified in different areas of the law, but unfortunately, because collaborative is a relatively new legal process, the state bar has not caught up with the practice to provide any sort of certification process for collaborative professionals. And so Collaborative Divorce Texas has worked to fill that void, and they have an application process where the collaborative professional, whether it's an attorney, a mental health professional, or a financial professional, can submit an application. And to become credentialed, it requires a certain number of completed collaborative cases. It requires a certain minimum level of collaborative training, both on a basic, what we call basic training, but also advanced training. and ongoing legal education or education in your field of practice, the mental health professionals and financial professionals. And then Collaborative Divorce Texas also has an even higher level of credentialing called master credentialing that, of course, requires more completed cases, more education, but also significant contributions to the collaborative community. And it's a great way to locate collaborative professionals who have a significant amount of experience to help clients go through a collaborative divorce.
I think it's so important because collaborative divorce as a practitioner requires a different skill set. It requires sitting with people together in a very tense situation sometimes and, being able to help them stay committed to their goals and their interests. And it doesn't always come naturally. And I think Collaborative Divorce Texas does such a great job of providing not only the basic training and the advanced training, but great seminars and presentations where those skills can continually be refined. So I think that's outstanding, and congratulations to you. You recently, over the past couple years, made the decision to really focus your practice on collaborative divorce and to move away from traditional litigation. How did you make that decision, and how has it impacted your business?
I made the decision, I think I referred to it earlier, whereby I moved over into family law, and I just decided I did not enjoy, I was not fulfilled by taking clients to the courthouse and litigating. It's, like I said, every person wants to be a good parent. Every person wants to be a good spouse. And our litigation system is really designed to try to paint the other person as though they're a bad person. And I just don't think that's what families are about. So I did make the conscious decision because of that I just didn't want to do that anymore. And I really wanted to focus on helping families continue to be families, but just in a different structure. We all are going to be parents together for the rest of our lives. We're going to be grandparents together. We're going to go to birthday parties and graduations and weddings together. And there's no point in standing in opposite corners of a room and glaring at each other and making our children uncomfortable. We're family still, we're just different. And so I did make that decision. And as a lawyer, it's really hard to say no to clients sometimes. But if clients come into my office and say, we want to go on the warpath, I just have to tell them, I'm really sorry, I'm not the right fit for you. We need to find you a different lawyer. And it's worked out beautifully for me personally. It is much more fulfilling helping families in this regard. And I do feel like that for the families that we help, it's a gift to them and their children as they do move forward into that next chapter.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Rhonda, for all the work you do to help families in the process. I know as a fellow colleague in the community, it's a privilege to get to work with you. And I would invite anybody who's watching today, if you're interested in learning more about collaborative divorce, you can go to hargravefamilylaw.com where we have resources available. But you can also check out Rhonda's website for her law firm, which will have a link to that below as well. I want to thank you all for joining us.